What do you think of, first of all, the state of things as they are right now with this impeachment inquiry? Then we'll get into Hillary.
Well, when we get these things, I always ask what the end game is. And we're 13 months from the election, and I guess this urgency suggests that, as I think Al Green, that Democratic representative of Texas, said that if you don't impeach now, you're going to lose the election. And nobody's introducing into the House any of these issues that they've been debating and promulgating: reparations, wealth tax, 90% income tax rate, Green Deal. So they don't have an alternate agenda, and every time there's a debate, Trump's polls go up 2 or 3 points. So I think they feel that if they don't do it now, they're going to have to abide by the decision of the electorate, and they don't want that. Because on the face of it, there's really less here than any of the other psychodramas: the 25th Amendment, the Emoluments Clause, the Logan Act, the voting machine, the Mueller investigation. So I think they're just throwing it up. What I'm kind of upset about, Laura, is that what's different this time is that people that used to be credible, William Weld talking about the death penalty for treason, or David Gergen saying if somebody murders or kills the whistleblower, Trump's responsible. We've got a polarization now where we have a lot of people, and they're not even the hard left. They're mainstream people have completely lost their mind, and that's I haven't seen that before. And even people who used to be reasonable, some on Fox News, the Drudge Report, or all these people they have completely flipped over. That's what's concerning. I think the left's strategy in that sense has been effective, just to wear out chaos. And then so people in the middle or rhinos will just say, just let it all go away. I can't deal with this anymore. And I think that's the strategy, to wear Trump out, wear his supporters out, and then not to face the electorate in 2020. Of course, I don't think they've thought about it, because there's no chance in blank that the Senate's going to convict Donald Trump, even if they have a trial.
So since they know that, Victor, they know the Senate won't convict him. This is just a narrative that they want to seal of a corrupt president with corrupt motives and corrupt intentions, and hope that swamps the prosperity that the nation has enjoyed since he came into office. That's it.
That's right. Look what happened, Laura. If we were talking just a week ago, we would have been talking about Trump's great speech at the UN, the series of interviews he had for foreign leaders were very successful. He'd gone up 3 or 4 points in the real clear average. He was soaring. And then all of a sudden this psychodrama was unleashed, and that's all we've talked about. And I even think that in a strange way that a lot of the progressives are so delusional, they'll go to America and say, you know what, we'll take out Joe Biden. We understand that he did something, and Trump will have to agree to bow out, and we'll take a hit, you take a hit. That's not going to happen either, but it's very funny how they were willing to put Biden on that sacrificial altar, because he'd escaped all scrutiny, even after that ridiculous boast he made at the Council on Foreign Relations that was taped. Now he's damaged goods, and they know in the long term that Elizabeth Warren will be a weaker candidate than Joe Biden. That's just a no-brainer.
Well, what I don't follow here is how even certain reporters you don't expect anything from, but when people actually make up quotes whole cloth, who are would be the leaders of this impeachment inquiry, whether it's Adam Schiff or Pelosi, that's what's shocking. Let's listen.
Your Republican colleagues say, well, the call is the call. There's nothing here that rises to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors.
Well, they're wrong. And it remains to be seen, because it's not just what happens in the call. It's part of the sequencing of events as well. You withdraw $200 million worth of assistance to a country, and then a couple of days later say, by the way, can you help me with my campaign? In other words, there's a sequencing there.
Okay, never said that. That's the problem. Never said it.
No, the closest thing to that was what Joe Biden did say. Donald Trump is accused of a thought crime that he didn't do. But Joe Biden, it's very funny, because they're making the case when they accuse Trump to convict Joe Biden, because he actually did brag under pressure they backed off and fired this prosecutor. I don't think they realize that there's a lot of things coming out. We don't know what the Ukraine's going to release yet. We do not know anything about these three prosecutors. I don't have a lot of confidence in Horowitz, but maybe Huber and Durham are going to find things. I don't see where the news cycle in the next 6 weeks is going to favor them, but it shows that they feel that the media is on their side, the foundations, university, Hollywood, and maybe they can create in popular culture such a sense of chaos that people just want it all to go. And they're targeting the independent voter, I think. And it's very important, though, I think you're right about that, to let Trump concentrate on his agenda and let people around him defend him. And I don't think it does any good to get back and forth with Nancy Pelosi or Adam Schiff.
No, I think the idea of well, I need to confront my accuser, and Adam Schiff is guilty of treason. I mean, all that does is give more oxygen to the left, of saying, well, Trump's becoming unhinged. I mean, if I hear he's Roy Cohn one more time, I'll just, I don't know if I can take that frayed and tired comparison, but this is what they'll continue to do. So, Bill Clinton was pretty smart. He also had an agreeable media, but when he said, look, I'm just going to do the work of the American people, and he let his lawyers do it, he had to do his grand jury testimony via videotape, but then he just went about his business. To me, that's a much better way.
We should remember, though, that he didn't just let them deal with the media. They turned loose James Carville, who really attacked Ken Starr and called him a cigarette lawyer, who a prosecuting attorney. They were pretty tough.
Yep.
They went nuclear on everybody, and they made it so difficult, and that's how they won. And almost all of the Republicans that were forefront in that impeachment effort lost in the next election. And maybe that'll happen as well. But if Trump can just stay cool, and he's going to take I think he's going to take a short-term hit in 2 or 3 points in the polls, and then he's going to go back up as he usually does, because there's a lot, as I said, there's a lot of good things coming down the pipe from, especially these Democratic debates. We haven't had one in a while, and every time we hear one, people get appalled, especially the donor class. They look at this and they say, wow, we had Hillary and we gave her money, and she gave these kind of coffee chats for us on Wall Street and Silicon Valley, but this crazy Warren and Sanders, they want to take our money away. And they're not going to, either they'll sit this out or they won't they'll give money to Trump, because that debate frightens a lot of the people that supported Hillary Clinton.
Well, the thing that I find amazing is that Adam Schiff will play this, and then I'll give you the latest news update. Let's listen.
The president believes that it is his God-given right to shake down foreign leaders for helping his reelection, and he should not be encumbered by the public finding out about it. And that's what has incensed the president, and I'm willing to take the brunt of that.
Okay, well, we found out even Kenneth Vogel for the Washington Post, who's a big liberal, he had to tweet, the Ukrainians weren't made aware that the assistance was being delayed or reviewed until more than 1 month after the call. So the Ukrainians didn't know about the aid being withheld until late August. And it was released on September 11th that it looks like the reason it was withheld is because they objected to the sale on national security grounds, because the Ukraine had produced engines and missiles and jets. The same company named Motor Sich, it's a Ukrainian factory. They were proposing to sell it to a Chinese company. That was the reason that they were delaying the aid.
I think what the Democrats want people to do is make a series of assumptions, and then once you do that, then you play on their field. The assumption is it's okay for people in a confidential or classified setting to leak conversation from the President of the United States to an intelligence officer who is corroborating with probably House Democrats or maybe Fusion GPS or lawfare people, and then you leak that, and then you make the second argument that everybody has a right to know what the president says confidentially to a foreign leader. I mean, if we could go back and listen to the Iran negotiations between Obama and the Iranians about a nocturnal infusion of cash for hostages, or what follow up on the hot mic with the Russians, nobody ever on the Republican side ever thought that you could listen to every conversation that Obama said. Presidents shouldn't have that restraint. But once you're going down this line and we start to try to out-debate them or logic, at some point you need to say, this is just ridiculous. It's not symmetrical. You would never do this for your own people. And when you hear Biden, of all people, saying that Giuliani shouldn't be on television, it's crazy given his criminal exposure, or what we saw with the dossier with the Steele, or Hillary, who hired a foreign national with 3 firewalls to destroy her opponent's campaign and then to send that off to other people to destroy his transition presidency. And she's complaining about it was unfair that she lost. So you have to make all these absurd assumptions, and then you get in with them back and forth. But at some point, somebody's just going to have to say, Trump's going to do his job. He's not going to let anybody listen to a presidential call. He's going to play by the same rules that you guys play by, and that's it, and let the people decide in November.
Do you think that Hillary will actually get back in the race? I mean, I don't think so, but...
No. I think if anybody would get in the race to save them, it would be Michelle Obama, because she's got much higher ratings than Hillary. It's a way of Lincoln nod to get Barack a third term. She's very popular after her memoir. She can say that she was first lady for 8 years, but I don't see that happening. But I do think they have an existential crisis that once they have sacrificed Biden for this impeachment narrative, if you look at they don't have another candidate right now. Nobody in America is not going to elect Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. It's not going to happen. And so it's sort of like the Howard Dean when he was leading, in 2011. Excuse me, 2004, and then all of a sudden John Kerry had to be pushed in there by the establishment. I think that's going to happen because if they get rid of Biden, they don't have a viable candidate. They just don't.
Yeah, I don't think Michelle Obama has the. I think she's very popular, but that's only because she's not a politician.
That's true.
She'll never be as popular as she is right now, and I don't think policy is her thing. And I think you'll see a very different Michelle Obama if she runs for office. It's a whole different ballgame than going on a book tour to a friendly audience.
If you and I had this conversation in 2000, we'd say the same thing about Hillary. We thought, she's been first lady, but she's had problems with Lowe's law firm. The idea is she'll be a senator, a politician.
No, I predicted it. I predicted it in 2000. I wrote a book called The Hillary Trap. That was my first book. I knew she was going to run.
But don't you think she was better I think that Michelle Obama has better political smarts than Hillary does.
Well, I think Hillary had more political ambition. I think Michelle loves the celebrity life and loves the talk shows and loves they got $200 million and so I think they love that, Victor. But I don't think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I think
something's going to have to happen. Believe me, something's going to have to happen.
Warren can't be the nominee. In other words, you think Warren can't? No, she can't be the nominee. I've been talking to a lot of people in Silicon Valley recently, donor class for the Hoover Institution, and I'm just struck how many progressives or independents that backed Hillary Clinton will not back Elizabeth Warren. They just won't do it because it's a suicide pact. And she talks about a wealth tax or a 70 or 90% income tax or the new Green Deal. They just won't do it. And I wouldn't be surprised, but I think a lot of them would give to Trump to stop her. They're that adamant against her. She's not a good candidate either. She's got a lot of she comes across as shrill. I know that's a sexist word, but she does. Bernie's not going to be the candidate either. So I don't know why they put this thing up, because the logical result of this whole caper was to destroy the Biden candidacy. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, by the way, Bill Maher from HBO, he's obviously a big liberal, but even he was, he'd like someone like Warren, obviously, or Sanders. That's more of his cup of tea, I guess. But even he pointed out that if Don Jr. had done, half of what, Hunter Biden had done, there'd be a huge stink. Let's listen.
His kid was paid $600,000 because his name is Biden by a gas company in Ukraine, this super corrupt country that just had a revolution to get rid of corruption. It just looks bad. And the Republicans are geniuses at muddying the water. Just to know, it's all going to be about, you did this in Ukraine, well, Joe Biden did this. It does sound like something Don Jr. would do. And if Don Jr. did it, it would be all Rachel Maddow was talking about.
Yeah, well, that is true, is it not? Biden just got a total pass on this.
Yeah, I think the problem with it is there's no logical explanation, because he has no expertise in oil and Ukraine and foreign policy. There's no record he did anything. He went over there. His father was appointed administration point man on Ukraine, so we know what it was all about. He can't produce documents that he did something positive or he was valued as a trusted advisor. We all know what it was, and we know that Biden bragged about it, so they were open about it. So every time they start to defend that, and they do, they weaken any counter case against Trump. So they can't square that circle. The only way they can square it is to say, you know what, Biden's got to go, because there's other reasons to get rid of him, because he was sort of muddled on the campaign. But we can't press this case against Trump when he's there, because he's an obstacle to it. And I think everybody's going to agree on that. I mean, Bill Maher says something like that, and he's on the left side. You can really see what their problem is. And Biden just makes it worse. And Hunter Biden won't come out. I mean,
where is he?
Come out and said something.
Why is nobody staking out? Why is nobody staking out his apartment or his house? He's a deadbeat dad. Doesn't he owe his no. Well, he's not a deadbeat dad. I think they want to do a paternity test or something with some kid. I don't know if that's legitimate or not, but he seems like he's on the run.
I don't know. I think when we say Hunter Biden, we think of the early car crash. We think of his brother dying. And then the Biden tragedy. It's all off limits. But when he gets out there, it won't be. And he can't speak to the press, because the moment he does, he's contradicted his own dad already. His father said they'd never spoken. Hunter said he did. Next time he gives an interview, it'll be at odds of what Biden said. And I think people are I really do think that a lot of people, if you start listening to a few in the Democratic Party, David Axelrod or Doug Schoen, they just want this to go away, because they're smart enough to realize that Biden was their best ticket to get back in power. And they've destroyed that avenue, and they're just upset about it. And they lived through the Clinton impeachment. They don't want to go there again. And people are going to get mad, Laura. I can always sense it just talking to people. If they try this and they actually go through with impeachment, you're going to see a popular furor that you haven't seen in a long time.
Victor, I think you have hit the nail on the head, because every time we hear about, the left is so angry. They're so angry. They're so angry at Trump. You know what I say? I said they have no idea what anger is until the righteous anger of the American voter is expressed next November. I think people are really angry that this will affect our economy. It's affecting our foreign policy. This is going to affect Trump's ability to deal with the Chinese, because they're going to think, well, he's not going to be around. I mean, I'm going to deal with him. It's affecting everything.
Yeah, and you look at the point people who are the spokesmen that are on television pressing this case, and they're Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi, and they don't come across as charismatic or persuasive. They do come across as monotonous, and then people say, you know what, I've heard you before. I've heard you for the last 3 years. I'm tired of it. If you guys want this agenda, go make a case for it. Pass bills, put it up there, and then go out and campaign. And especially the timing, when we're so close to an election, and we're already campaigning for an election. And boy, it could. The reason that these pros are worried, because every one of those, not just the House candidates, but also the Democratic candidates, are going to have to say yes or no where they want impeachment. And they can produce all the polls that say 50-50 or 49-51, but you start to see that there's no public support for it.
Now, they're going to keep polling, just like with Brexit, though, right? Until they get, there's a momentum for impeachment. Did the same thing with Brexit. The Brexit vote happened 3 years later. We're still trying to get Brexit. I mean, it's the same. Yeah, they don't like democratic results. They don't like democracy.
I'm not worried about the long term, because I think long term Trump is going to get a much weaker candidate. I think the news cycle with all these investigations and the Democratic debates and the monotony of it's going to favor Trump. But just short term, he's got to just concentrate on the economy, foreign policy. Don't get distracted. He'll lose 2 or 3 points now and then, and the polls don't worry about it, and let the natural cycle play out. And it's really going to, after the initial buzz, it's really going to hurt them. It really is. And he's got a lot of really gifted spokesmen. Devin Nunes is so much more adept in the House than Adam Schiff. In the Senate, Lindsey Graham's been doing a good job. He's got a lot. He just should let people handle it for him because they've got the winning argument. Because on the truth is on their side. He didn't do anything wrong.
I agree. And Victor, don't you also think this is in part to sully up any Supreme Court pick that Trump might have? Let's say a Supreme Court vacancy comes up over the next year. They want to say this man is illegitimate. He can't put a Supreme, and they want to like have people in the streets. It turned this into a, nationwide protest.
No, absolutely, and that goes back to FDR. When FDR did the court packing, he started attacking Supreme Court justices. Later, his aides said, "Well, that might have been stupid, but it might have been smart because we got favorable court rulings from justices who were scared." I think that's part of it as well. They want to not only get a more moderate nominee, but they want Kavanaugh and others, Roberts, to say, you know what, you've got to be more moderate, or if you don't, there's going to be a court packing scheme. There's going to be another Kavanaugh melodrama 3.0. And, I think that's what they're trying to do. If they had handled the second Kavanaugh caper a little bit better, but they were so muddled and they were contradictory and the witnesses were so, pathetic that it went nowhere. But they got 5 or 6 days out of it. But that's what they're after. And I think you're right, too. I think that's one of the main reasons they hate Trump so much, because if he were to get elected, you could envision a 7-3 or even an 8-2 court in 5 years. And that, I don't know what they'd do if that happened.
No, their heads are going to twist off and just fly right off their bodies. I mean, they're just, they can't take it. I mean, the people are speaking too much. I was in South Side, Chicago on Friday night doing a show for Fox, Victor, and boy, I learned a lot in this trip, and it's the second one I've done on crime in Chicago. And I can say this, that Donald Trump should not be dissuaded from going into these urban areas, because just going, talking to folks, listening to them, working with the faith leaders there, these are just, there are common sense solutions and common sense people who say, like, none of this is working. The old leadership isn't working. They all know it. And it wasn't a political show, but they know that the solutions that happen to have been offered by the left haven't worked. And I've got to say, I think there's a lot of opportunities for conservatives. I couldn't agree more. That, you remember the rally that he had in Phoenix recently, or it was in New Mexico, and you saw all the Latino T-shirts, and he was really talking about the Hispanic vote. And where I am in California, it's about 90% Mexican American in my hometown, and I can tell you the jobs, nobody's ever seen an economy like that. And we used to have a 16% unemployment rate in Central California. It's down to 5%. And people appreciate that, and they're working, and they don't like illegal immigration. They don't like people driving around that are without licenses and registration and hit and run. And that message resonates, and he could really make a lot of gains. It won't matter necessarily in California, but it would help at the congressional level. A lot of those seats that we lost in California can be won back pretty easily. I completely agree. All those people who said they were going to work with Trump and be bipartisan and common sense, every single one of them should be thrown out of office. And any Republican who is fueling this impeachment nonsense with vague statements and opaque commentary and piling on, all those people should go. I'm just this is not the time for vague or unhelpful commentary. We have enough of that from the left.
No, I agree, and I don't know what people like Ben Sass and Mitt Romney I don't understand their strategy, because they're going. I think the facts itself of the impeachment are going to refute them, and then more importantly, when Biden drops out, what are they going to do? They're going to say that Trump is not preferable to Warren or Sanders. So they're in a no-win situation, and I think they're going to start to realize that pretty quickly. And it's really going to hurt these never-Trump people. I mean, as I said, there's been people at Fox News and the Drudge who have been going over.
I don't know what happened to Drudge. I don't know what's going on there.
I don't either, but
I don't know. I mean, he's always kind of an iconoclast, and I don't mind that. I mean, he's always kind of in a way distrustful of all people in power, and I mean that has its place, I guess, but. This is for the whole thing. This is for the it. This is for the whole thing. This is not one
side.
controversy.
No, he's not on the. He's not. He really does want to see that Trump impeached and his presidency imploded. It's clear when you look at it. And there's people at Fox News that want the same thing, and that's unusual. And I don't know what their thinking is, but they're going to look very silly when Elizabeth Warren is nominated or somebody like her, because then what do? They sit out and say, you know what, I can't vote for Donald Trump, and I'm not willing to put up with the new Green Deal and reparations and a wealth tax. That's contrary to everything they've told us for the last 30 years. And so they're going to be hypocrites par excellence. I don't think people game this thing down 2 or 3 stages or iterations as it's moving. It doesn't move in a good direction if you think about it carefully.
I want to thank Victor Davis Hanson. It's always great having him on. Victor, thanks